Welcome to the Round Six Podcast, a weekly roundtable discussion featuring a variety of automotive subjects, interviews, special guests, and stories, hosted by the Round Six Gearheads. Brian Stupski, Brad King, Alex Welsh, and Eric Hibbs. On episode 9, the Gearheads sit and talk custom paint, hot boats, and even reinvent the face of extreme water sports with custom painter Billy B. Welcome to the Round Six Podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Brad.
I'm Alex.
I'm Eric.
I'm Billy B.
Hey, well, he took care of it for us. I was going to give you a great intro. I had it all.
We'll go for it.
No cue card or anything.
You guys are all talking. I'm just figuring I have to follow suit.
Hell yeah.
Brad gave me no instruction whatsoever. Slapped a pair of freaking earmuffs on me and told me to just sit here.
That's what he does to us too.
Yeah.
Is he calling you Princess Leia?
He hasn't pulled that one on me yet.
I don't want to ruin anything. Forget I said anything.
Dang it! There goes that surprise.
Well, after Alex's Chewy post today.
What? What was wrong with that?
Nothing at all.
It was for the Star Wars fans.
Yeah, you know.
I had such a good one too. We were gonna do.
Do the intro. You gotta do the intro.
We were gonna go. We had this whole thing set up. It was like, hey, tonight we'd like to welcome the Liberace of flat bottom boats.
Oh, nice.
Captain Earl Scheib of the Orange Peel, the SS Orange Fat. Fucked it up.
Crushed velvet.
Perfect.
The Boy George of Bow Riders.
Wow, while we're going all flamboyant on it, why don't we just have it, hey, you may know his boat show, which is considered the Live 8 of boat shows.
Oh, oh man. This went off the rails fast.
We weren't going to waste time.
So
We were
we're
going
right
to
on
beach
schedule.
this sucker clean off the bat. Oh my gosh. So, well, obviously, this is almost a moot point now. How are you tonight, sir?
Are you talking to me?
Sure, I'll talk to you, man.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Great. Good to finally talk to you.
Nice to talk to you guys.
We were planning on doing this quite a ways back, and it never kind of gelled, and I'm glad we get to do this tonight.
So I'm interested to see how this goes. And what I mean by that is how it all works, I guess.
Well, yeah, I hope your expectations aren't too high. So,
I can't be with you I'm sitting next to.
Oh.
Wow.
I got to get my shots in before he does. I mean, seriously.
So, where do you want to start, man? Brad, how long have you guys known each other, Brad? And Billy? I'd be better off. Fuck you, Brad. Let's start this way. So, Billy, how long have you known Brad?
How long have I had the pleasure?
Well, no, because that's a weak question right there. That's pleasure's measured in drops with that guy.
Dick died.
Dick died. So it's been about 8 years, 10 years.
About 10 years.
10 glorious years.
Wow. Seems longer. I mean, it's been wonderful.
Oh, it's been a joy.
perfect.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure.
So when you guys met, you were at the shop in Upland, right? Is that where you? Yeah. How long were you in that shop for?
Moved into that shop in 1998, and I left in 16.
Wow, you were a long time.
Yeah, they're a long time. Originally started out in my dad's garage. But then I moved to a shop in Azusa, California. And I remember when a guy that I was doing a job for, he says, Billy, I've got a friend of mine that's got a building, part of a building. The guy did collision work, and he says he rents out the other half. And he says, but, it's going to cost you $250 a month. And I remember thinking, oh shit, how the hell am I going to afford that? And to the note that I got here, yeah, I'd take the 250 in a heartbeat. But when you're first starting out, and you don't know, I memean, that was when you were able to buy 5 gallons of high didge lacquer thinner. For me, it was R&M, and it was the code number on it was PNT 90, and I could buy 5 gallons of that for $50. Wow. And now a gallon of RU 311 or 312 from House of Color runs you with tax in excess of $90. Wow. So, yeah, it's definitely for like one of these pretty fancy paint jobs on here on a boat, or actually anything realistically, $3,500 to $5,000 in materials nowadays is nothing.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah. So I did the Azusa thing for a bit and then moved down to that shop was probably, 700 or 800 square feet, but it had a spray booth. And then I moved down to Walnut, California, hung there for like 14 years, and then went over to Fontana by the Speedway. A friend of mine that was going to go late model stock car racing, and he didn't need the whole shop, so I took the other half. And then when he thought that he was that going stock car racing was going to make him more money than his lucrative trucking company, he left that and lost everything. And so then I was forced to go to Upland, and I did that until we moved out here.
Wow. So what got you started in painting? Was it just family, or just did it on your own?
No, my dad always had really, really cool cars growing up, and he was a high school football and basketball and baseball coach in West Covina. And the kids to this day that are, in their 70s and probably early 80s actually remember him of having the slammed cars with a Carson top and the electric doors and all that kind of stuff. And
bitchin'.
So I was always around that stuff, and he actually did not want me to paint. He was born in Glendale, and there was a lot of good customizers back in the day out there in the Valley area, obviously, but most of them were alcoholics and no family life, and it was just part of the deal. And he for sure thought that I was going to go that dirt, not because I gave him any reason to think that, but he just didn't think that he wanted me in that type of a deal. And so I actually started to go to college for graphic arts. And then I did there was a picture taken of a drag boat that I really liked. And so I basically traced it and blew it up, traced it out. And then I did it all with like charcoal, and shadowed it and did all that kind of stuff. And I took it to the art teacher for part of my report that I was doing. And he said that the thing was completely out of whack. It was just off. It just wasn't right. And it was an actual photo, right? That I had traced it and then did all the work myself. And the guy, every time I turned around, it just seemed that I was going against these guys. You know what? Screw it. So then I started doing little odds and end jobs out of my dad's garage, and was always a boat guy. So one of the leading, back when drag boat racing was big, which was in the early 70s till probably early 80s, one of the biggest manufacturers was up in Fresno called Sanger Boats. Mm-hmm. And I went up there and got a job, and then the gas crunch hit. And I don't know whether you guys remember when the gas crunch hit in the late 70s and you were on your odd even on your license plate.
Right.
The boat business just went in the tank. And the oil industry as well, which a lot of your resins are petroleum based, you were having problems with the resins and all that. So I went from 5 days a week of painting and detailing and doing that kind of stuff to 2 days. So I moved from Fresno back down to Covina, and started doing stuff out of my dad's garage, and that was in latter part of '78, and the rest is history.
Wow.
So how old were you when you started when you did the charcoal thing? That was junior high school?
Yeah, no, that was actually my first semester in college, so I was 18.
I was going to say
19. I'm sorry, 19.
It's ironic to me that someone would say, "Hey, I want you to go into graphic arts so you can avoid becoming, an alcoholic or having no family life."
Yeah. Well, he actually wanted me to become a dentist, which is never going to happen with me.
That's the best advice you can give anyone who wants to go into anything creative. You're like, no, go be a dentist instead. Be creative later in life.
Well, and the dentist, my dentist told me that dentist is the highest suicide rate there is.
So thanks, Dad.
They're not creative dentists.
Suicidal.
Followed closely by
suicidal drug addict on doing graphic arts. Yeah. So the irony of everything is I've never done any drugs, and I'm not a guy that sits at home after I leave here and goes and drinks. So.
Well, I wonder. This brings up an interesting point. I have to look this up when we're off the air. I wonder what the suicide rate is among dental artists. Guys who do like dental renderings.
I have a lot of dental customers. I'll tell you, the guys who actually do the assembly and such are not the people you might expect. They are an interesting group. I think they picked them up at in the back of the convenience stores.
At the bus station.
Yeah, bus station. Yeah.
All day. God.
So it's yeah.
But yeah. So then I actually, kind of an interesting story is one of my best friends growing up. He decided he wanted to go circle boat racing, and he purchased a boat, and he'd never driven one. And a guy that worked for Louis Unser, a guy named Bud Gilbert, did the motor for him, and we ended up setting the record that year up in northern Washington, and he got done doing that, set the record, got driver of the year and all that, and he walked away from the sport. Sold the boat, and his dad, they were part of that NADA appraisal guides. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Yep.
Okay, so he was part of that, and his dad said, "Hey, you're not gonna do this anymore. You're gonna end up taking over the company at some point." And so Don sold the boat. I found the boat several years later. It had been through 2 or 3 different owners, and no matter who got behind the wheel of that thing, the boat was always fast. It didn't always have the same power plant, but the boat handled very well. And I actually have that boat back in my possession, and we were going to restore it. It was the first complete paint job I'd ever done, and I did it in my buddy's dad's garage. And he was going to hang it in the NADA office.
Cool.
On the wall, and he has since sold that portion of the business, so he doesn't need the boat. But that was just getting that boat back, and I've restored it to the point where it's just white right now, ready to be painted. But it was kind of a cool thing that, all these years later, 40 years later, you've got your very first complete paint job back here, and so it's just sitting down there looking for a home from somebody at some point in time. But yeah, so it's been.
So was your original paint job still on the boat?
No, it had been redone a couple of times by, other little like body shops and stuff like that. I stripped, I think, 4 paint jobs off of it. So at the time of stripping them off and then going back and seeing your original job on there, it was pretty funny.
Oh, hell yeah.
Very cool.
But,
I was hoping for like one of those reality show type endings for this. Like, yeah, we found the original boat, but it was being used in, Fresno as a food truck.
We had great expectations of doing something really cool with that, but it didn't happen. And I'm not saying it won't happen, but it hasn't happened yet.
Is the hull sound enough to put back in the water, or is it just a display boat now?
Oh no, it's absolutely badass. Yeah, it's all been redone.
Oh, wow.
So you could put any type of alcohol motor in that thing. It had an injected alcohol motor in it at the time. So you could do the same thing and be out here running around on the river with it real easily.
Wow.
How cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, put it this way. He's probably right now got, I'm going to tell you, he's easily got 50 to 60 grand in it with no engine and no trailer underneath it. And it's not finished being painted. That's the condition that boat was in when I got it. And then I sub, a lot of the glass work out because I just don't want the shop being a mess. And, by the time Brad just saw my boat that I have here, that I just had all the installation redone by a friend of mine down in Huntington Beach. And, to have these installations custom built, there isn't, it's not like a typical chassis like on a 55 through 57 Chevrolet.
Right.
They're not common. Everything is completely different from manufacturer to manufacturer. So when you're restoring something and you're having a guy make it for you, everything is one off. So not only do you have to come up with the idea, it's got to be, functional when you're done with it, and look bitching. And so it takes a lot of time, and these guys are, $100, $125 an hour guys. So it definitely adds up very, very quickly. And, I get a lot of these street rod guys or muscle car guys that walk in and they'll see a guy with a boat that's all finished, and they'll go, "Hey, how much do you think that guy's got in that thing?" And I said, 100, 150. You got to be kidding me. And I said, it's pretty simple terms. A bare hull is $15,000 with nothing. Yeah. And now, the trailers that used to be $2,500 or $7,500, and, the badass motor from, whoever your local horsepower guru was $25,000. It's now bordering on $50,000.
Right.
So it's just, especially if you want really nice state-of-the-art stuff. And do they take a bath on it when they go to sell it? Hell yeah. But so does the guy that was building the $150,000 Harley from the guys back east. You know what I mean? When that was the craze.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then you watch, when you sit back and you watch the Barrett Jackson auctions, and you see what some of those cars rolling across there are $500,000 builds, and the guy's pulling $85,000 out of it. So it's really no different. You do it for the passion.
Yeah. Right.
So
I was wondering. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I was going to say, nobody ever ends up on the plus side of this kind of thing. Well, some people do. I guess
it's weird that you brought that up, because there was a boat, if you guys are familiar, like with the wood deck boats,
mm-hmm.
There was one sitting in a garage down in Long Beach for 35 years, unmolested and covered up. The guy had passed away. The wife covered it and let it sit there. And a friend of mine went and bought it. He paid 20 grand for it, which was a lot of money for a boat that, the motor had, I can't think of the guy's name that built the motor, but it was a big name engine builder who's actually still around, blown injected on gasoline. The wood deck was damn near mint condition. The paint job was the old lacquer stuff, so the pearl white had kind of yellowed, and there's a couple little chips, but nothing major. But because of the yellowing, you would have had to repaint it. He just sold it because he got ill. He just sold it, and another friend of my brother's picked it up for 10 grand.
Oh.
And I had that boat sold for 25. So you could imagine. Those deals do come around,
right?
But they're rare. So, and I missed it. I missed it by about 2 days of picking that thing up and thinking, man, I got a slam dunk payday coming. You know what I mean? And I was going to actually repaint the white and do all the colors and stuff like that and update it for the 25, and you still would have made money.
Right.
But those deals don't happen too often. No. Not at the caliber that these guys are doing stuff. And a lot of the people that we do work for, when you walk in here, and Brad hasn't seen this one that's sitting here covered up right now, but it's a $150,000 build that we did for a guy. And you look at these, and this shop has gone from just a paint shop back in the day to probably 10 years ago when it was just paint stuff, to now I sub out to, an engine guy, and I can sub out to the fabricators, and I know all these guys through the 40 years of being in the business, but it's almost like for the better term, a chip foose thing for the flat bottom stuff.
Right.
So, and the jobs they take a long time. It's no different. So, anyway.
I will say I'm fortunate when I come down here. I get to see some amazing equipment, and it's a little overwhelming because, I'm used to the hot rod stuff, and you go, holy crap, these guys are nuts. I mean, it's nuts. it's seriously nuts.
It's an illness.
You watch a boat doing 140 on the river, and you go, what am I watching? Oh, seriously. Oh, yeah. You're talking an 18-foot boat. It's not like it's a Corvette on the water, and it's screaming.
Well, and I mean, if you've never been that fast, I mean, most people think 40, 45 on the water is hauling ass, and it is. Right. But when you get in something like, fast I've been on the water is probably 85, and it was scary.
Well, I would rather be in my boat going fast than in a car going fast.
Yeah. Which
sounds, backwards, obviously. But one of my good friends is a Mercedes-Benz salesman, and he came by my shop with an AMG 2-seater deal that they had taken in on trade-in. And he goes, hey, let's go up onto the freeway. I want you to try this car out. Well, I was running 130 miles an hour by the time I got down to the bottom of the on-ramp to get onto the freeway. Mm-hmm. But it didn't, that's hauling ass.
Oh, yeah.
But it just didn't feel that impressive to me. And we got back, and he goes, what do you think? I go, that thing runs really good. And he goes, that's it? And he was building a boat similar to what I have, or he did actually, which is the motor's put out about 1,600 horsepower, and your boat, my motor in my boat, hanging from a crane, weighed 1,870 pounds.
Oh, jeez.
And the thing puts out around 1,600 horsepower. So at the end of the day, when you're just cruising around in it and you hammer it accelerates like, it's like nothing that I've been in. I could only imagine like an alcohol funny car or, some of the bigger stuff. So when you're watching these drag boat guys on TV, like another good friend of mine is this Tony Scarlatta, who runs an alcohol flat bottom for Lucas Oil. He's running 170 miles an hour and 1,000 feet.
Oh, yeah.
And the fuel boat, the top fuel hydros now are running, 270 and an ET of 342 in 1,000 feet.
With one propeller.
So no, the top fuel guys have now gone to 2.
Have they?
Yeah. But they're experiencing different types of problems. They're getting to the speeds and all that where like the rudders that are all, steel heat treated rudders, they're snapping them.
Holy crap. I can't even imagine.
When that rudder snaps, that boat wants to whip around. I was just watching one this morning. It wants to whip around on you and, basically swap ends. Mm-hmm. So it's just the grace of God that, the guy didn't go on his head. So, ooh. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I will never take somebody for a ride in my boat and try and scare them because I wouldn't want to be in that position.
Right.
But it's really, really, I would have to tell you that most of the time they get out of my boat and they go, wow, that's it. And I never floored it. I won't do that. But, you're probably running 100, but it feels like a go-kart. And they're just amazed at how stable the boat felt. Now, I'm also a guy that knows that you play the odds long enough, you're going to get beat. So I always, in my mind, if I'm sitting there thinking I'm going to go do it one more time, I automatically come in. Because it's always that one last time that steps up and bites you. So
that's exactly why I sold my motorcycle. I'd never had a close call. I knew it was coming.
Right. So, it's just a matter of time. And I realize how many moving parts are going. And and they're going very, very quickly. So, but it's definitely a thrill to me, and I still enjoy doing that, and more
But
so
you
than
but you
I do.
respect what's there, and
Right.
that's important.
And you have to.
So I may be way off base. I might be behind the time. But when you're talking about a boat that's running, 130, 140, 170 miles an hour, I have to ask, just with the age of extreme sports, is there a world record for like water skiing behind one of these things?
There used to be.
Holy moly.
They never found his arms, so that didn't really stay long.
Now his name's Bob.
They couldn't validate the record. They couldn't find all of his body parts.
They and it's weird that you would ask that, because back in the mid 70s at Long Beach Marine Stadium, when the drag boat racing was, I want to tell you, was in its glory days, they would have that speed skiing. And I mean, you would have guys on water skis. The nutty thing were the barefooters.
Whoa, no.
I mean, the barefoot record was like at 110, 150. I mean, it was stupid. So the let off, and I can remember sitting there going, I was 13 or whatever I was. I'm sitting there thinking, how do you let go? When you're barefooting, how do you let go? So what the guys would do is that they would let go of the rope, and then they would like spin, they'd slide, but they'd spin and slide on their butt backwards.
Yeah.
The problem is that there was a death right in front of me, where the guy was hauling ass, and then he went in face first.
Ooh.
And that was the end of it. And they've had that a couple of times with the speed skiers, but I don't, the nut thing to do is Google Australian waters. It's the Dam-toDam race down in Australia.
Of course, it's in Australia if it's going to be extreme, right?
And they're nuts. Those guys are freaking. They're not playing with a full deck. So the thing is that they do this Dam-toDam run where they take off pulling a water skier, and I am telling you, it's worth the watch. You can't. I mean, not only the mechanical thing of the boat, and then you have the observer facing backwards, so he has no idea what's coming up. He's just watching the skier. And the video, like the GoPro or whatever, is filming the skier. It is crazy how fast they're going. And it's not in a straight line.
And these are the boats that have the little winglets on the front to keep the front end down, aren't they?
The Australian ski boats, and then the ski boats out here, no, they don't. They're V-bottom hulls with these massive, usually twin turbocharged, 1,400 horsepower motors. And I'm sitting there thinking, a good friend of mine that owns Nordic boats over here in Havasu City, and he has won everything that there is to win in the sport of water ski racing. I go, why do you build a boat that'll run that kind of mile an hour when the guy can't physically hang on that hard, that long? And he says, well, you got to get out front. So that first lap is a hairball lap, I mean,
right.
Yeah, it's just nuts. But you got to watch that, because it's crazy, and they do have major accidents, and it does leave what they call water ski arm. If you ever walk around a boat race or a water ski race, you will see a guy with a dead arm, and it is from the way they hold the rope. They always have. I'm showing Brad. They have one arm behind their back. And they hold their right hand, if you're right-handed, I guess, will be out in front of them, holding onto the rope, and they hold the handles behind their back, right?
Yep.
Well,
like a half wrap, right?
Right. When they fall, they're off balance automatically because their other arm's not out there. They always fall to whatever side doesn't have the arm out there, and it literally takes your arm and wraps it around your body. So it's amazing. The second you see a guy at the boat race, what happened? It's the water ski dead arm deal, but it's interesting to watch it. Yeah.
Hey, didn't they used to race from Long Beach around Catalina and back? They used to ski.
Yes, they still do that every year.
They still do. I didn't know that was still going.
They don't go around the island. They leave over by the Queen Mary on one of the beaches over there, and they bonsai over there, to the island, make the turn, and come back.
Okay.
And one of my storage clients has won that event 11 times.
Oh my gosh.
And he's still doing it. And he skis behind my buddy that owns Nordic Boats, this Randy Davis. And the kid that has won it is a guy by the name of Todd Haig. The guy is freaking relentless. And I'm telling you, they can go over there and back. And don't hold me to this, but I want to tell you it's under 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's what? It's like 26 miles.
It's over and back. They are hauling ass. It's not.
Holy crap! It's 26 miles to Havasu.
Yeah. So.
I mean, to Havasu to Catalina.
To Catalina. So
Avalon, yeah.
Yeah. So they're jamming, and then it's a drag race as they come around the island where the Queen Mary is, or the peninsula, the point hanging out there. It's usually a drag race, and it's not the boat that crosses the line first. It's the skier.
So he's getting slung around at the end.
Oh my, yeah! I went down there, and you can go on and hang out at the Queen Mary and have cocktails, and you can, you just wait. You see the start, and then you're waiting for 45 minutes, and you're hearing reports come back, and then all of a sudden here's the drag race around the peninsula, and I mean it is a matter of feet, usually between Todd Haig and this other guy. And it's unbelievable how it's worldwide. This draws skiers from all over the world. It's a big, big race.
Right. I didn't realize they were still doing it. The last I'd heard was probably 10, 15 years ago. And I know it's been going for like 40 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm just interested to see what the secret handshake looks like with all the dead arms.
Oh, they just walk up and slap shoulders. Bump each other.
High shoulder, low shoulder.
Yeah. So yeah, it's. But I've definitely met a lot of really cool people doing this. I sit back every once in a while and I don't gloat on anything like that. But I'll sit there and think, for starting out in my dad's garage, and then dealing with. Doing boats for guys that you grew up watching, and then all of a sudden they're coming to my shop and wanting me to have stuff done for them. And some of the mechanics, top engine builders that I've been fortunate to be around, and I'm still around to this day, has been great. And then the big name guys in drag car racing that I've had the opportunity to do stuff for is when I put a list together and I look at it, it's just the who's who of that sport. And so it's been a pretty good ride, actually. I've been blessed until I met Brad.
They went down.
Yeah, I have to lock the gate so that nobody comes in and sees that he's actually here.
I heard you make him park in the dirt.
Well, you got to. It's a Chevy. Jesus Christ, spoiled.
The Exxon Valdez pulled.
Yeah. Got a shirt for him that says Captain Hazelwood on it. So, but
by the way, apparently the fastest water skier recorded is 143 miles an hour.
Wow. Yeah.
Now is that barefoot or is that like on ski?
No, that's water ski.
Yeah. What's the fastest barefoot guy?
I don't know. We'll see.
That breeds another
I
interesting
bet it's
question.
120. I think it's over 120 miles an hour.
I think so.
I wonder if those guys take the time to whittle down the calluses on their heels.
They don't need
to. File.
No, what I mean, to get the right shape. They're kind of like
they make
surfboard shaping comes in handy.
74.
How fast?
135.74 by Scott Michael Pelleton over a quarter-mile course at Chandler, Arizona.
Wow.
Out here.
Is that
nuts? This guy, dude.
Says he practiced by walking on shards of broken glass, hot coals,
coal walker,
and rusty nails.
Sponsored by Crocs Footwear. Makes the greatest sound as he goes across the water.
At that speed, it'd probably whistle.
Yeah, they haul butt. There's no doubt. They make an NFL player's ankle wraps and foot wraps that the trainers do look like child's play. I mean, they really wrap their feet up. So, but 135 miles an hour, that's crazy. I want to do it on an inner tube. I always wanted to drag you on an inner tube and take you through.
I don't want to be on the inner tube. I want to be behind the wheel.
Oh, there's a video. I'll have to show you guys the
video
of him pulling a guy in an inner tube behind his boat, and he yanked the inner tube pretty much out from underneath him. I don't know how fast you guys were going.
We were going pretty good.
Yanked him.
Yeah, we screwed up. We had too short of a rope. It needed about a 300-foot rope to where the boat came into the video and it disappeared, and then here came the tube. And then I thought it would have been badass to do on like 500-pound fish line to where you didn't even see nothing. The tube just goes scooting by.
The wake's already gone.
Oh, yeah, the whole thing.
You guys chasing the boat, huh?
No motor, no nothing.
It'd be great if you gave him a paddle and he's just hanging on.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been great. Yeah.
Oh. Hey, by the way, just because we're totally off topic anyway, or maybe we're not, the world record for barefoot water skiing from a helicopter is 153 miles an hour.
Helicopter.
I do want to suggest to Red Bull, though, how great would that be to have the Extreme Inner Tube Challenge?
Oh, yeah, it would be fun, especially around an island where you circle raced them.
Because then it just swinging way out.
Battle. Yeah, they swing out, they're fighting each other.
You could set this up like they do with like Formula D with the drifting. No, that's
right.
I was thinking a whole different Formula D for a second. It's a whole different realm of the internet. But like, if you set it up like drift racing, where these guys come around and they're slung way out and they have to like touch things on a wall or like grab a fish.
Right. Grab, yeah.
This would be awesome.
There's all kinds of possibilities.
We just invented a new sport. We need to get on this.
I guarantee you it'd be a moneymaker.
We need to come up with a seriously dirty double entendre of an acronym for this.
Yeah. So, I didn't mean to get you guys off topic. So
that's never happened on our show before, so we'll have to make note of this.
Yeah. Was staying on or actually leaving topic? Which has never happened?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Nicely played. So let me ask you, as far as like the boat show goes, what was the genesis of that? Because I mean, the thing is obviously huge. It's got its own life.
It back in. And I know the dates because that was when I first started dating my wife at the time, or currently, I should say. I had a deal up here at Needles, and there was probably about 18 boats, I think. And I was nervous, thinking nobody's going to show. And 18 at the time was decent. And while all the boats were sitting on the beach in this little cove, the cops pulled in.
Oh, and now you know it's good.
Yeah, and I didn't see him come in. My wife Janice comes up and she goes, "Hey, the cops are down on the beach and they're looking at everybody's stuff." And I'm thinking, "Oh shit!" So I just walked down there and introduced myself to him, and lo and behold, the one sheriff grew up here in Needles, and the other one riding with him, his dad used to run a drag boat, and they were both still into drag boat racing. So they thought it was cool, and they said, "Billy, we're not here to hassle you. We're here to see the equipment." And so for the years that those guys actually patrolled and were on the water, we never had a hassle. And kind of, not off topic because it's part of this, but kind of a funny thing that happened was we'd been out running the boats around, and the one cop that grew up here was in a car that day, and he came down into the marina where we were at and knew I was there, and he came walking down the beach with his partner, and there were some elderly people on the beach, and they didn't like the noise, and it was during the week, so we had the place to ourselves, but they didn't appreciate it. So here came the cops, and they were all excited. You could see the look on their face. Oh, these guys are going to get busted. This is great. And so the cop comes down. His name was Marvin Carter, and he came walking down the beach, and he's got his shorts on, and it was hot. And he comes up and he says, "Hey, you always promised me a ride." So I go, "I'll give it to you right now." So he gets in my boat, fully dressed, And he ends up, he goes, "Oh, I can't take this." He hands me his firearm. And I hand it off to his partner. Meanwhile, all these people on the beach watching this go down, right? And they're just like pissed off. So I give him a ride, and we come back in, and I just thought that it was really cool. They never really busted us for noise, and I mean, we're illegal as hell anyway. And so I thought, you know what? They opened up this new park there, well, where the boat show is, which is Jack Smith Park, and in Needles. And I went to the city through another friend of mine that got me in, and my wife and I went in there and presented the deal that I think I could do a boat show down here and raise money for the city. And that was 10 years ago, and it was just a way to give back. And of course, things changed. Marvin has since passed away, and you got a new regime of young boat guys that come out here, or cops, I should say, that they're going to prove their point, and they're going to prove their power over me and the group of guys that are down here, and they want to hassle you. And you know, I just wish I had the capability of making them realize that, hey, dude, this brings $100,000 and some odd to your city without the motels, without the eateries, without the gas stations or the convenience markets in a day and a half, 2 days.
Jeez.
And you guys want to hassle us over registration at the show or noise at the show. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And maybe that's why Needles is how Needles is. I know that the city council and the higher ups in the city have, you know, they have my back on all that stuff, but it's San Bernardino County sheriffs, and a couple of them are pretty cool. And then you got a couple guys that they just want to give you a hard time. So
what if you partnered with these guys and just said, hey, you know, you guys set up a booth and, you know, have a little, you know, some kind of a public information thing about registration or safe boating, whatever, you know?
They were actually a little bit better this year than they were last year. And we have meetings, you know, start planning stuff, not so much this year, but in years past, you're having boat show meetings, you know, months in advance, and they're aware of what's going on. And then all of a sudden they pulled it last year on me, or 2 years ago now, I want to tell you, where they were going to ticket everybody. And that didn't have, you know, current registration, and so it just wasn't really, because it wasn't a good scene, number one, and number two, it just puts a sour taste in the people's mouths that have driven. I mean, you get guys all the way from Boise, Idaho, Texas, Washington.
And the guy came from Detroit,
Iowa, and then 1 year, a guy, one of the guys that works for Ford Motorsport, towed all the way from Michigan through the snow.
Oh, gosh.
You knew where his boat was. It was the rusty one, right?
Rusty fiberglass.
Right, exactly.
Got there and there was no trailer.
So it, you know, it has the potential to actually go really, really big. And there's a couple of things that I got in that I've been thinking about that hopefully will come to pass here in the next maybe 1.5 to 2 years with the town, and where you can kind of maybe bring back some river racing like it used to be. So we'll see.
Way cool.
Yeah. But that's how, I mean, to answer your question, it started because I just wanted to give back to the city for what the earlier cops had done for us, and nobody hassled us, and everybody was actually really cool about everything. So
how many boats? As soon as you change that up, because of that, everything on the other side of it changes.
What do you mean?
As soon as you start giving back, then
then you start exactly. Pushback. Right, exactly. And that is probably one of the hardest things that I don't understand. Why the pushback?
Sounds like it's time to have a sit down with the chief of police. I don't know. I think that'd be my first.
Or just change the name to Billy B's No Good Deed Boat Show.
Pushback. So yeah, it's all good. Brad was out here not this year, but the year before, and when you can get over a couple hundred of these style of boats here that are, pretty badass. You don't really have a whole lot of. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that there aren't guys that just have a nice little riverboat that show up, and you don't want to leave them out.
Of course not.
I don't. They're all part of the family as far as this hot boating thing goes, but I do. We do one in September down in, and I don't really know if you guys have seen what Brad put together for down there at Pirate Cove. And it's on the
that's one of our most popular videos online. People eat
and
that thing up.
The cops, they really wanted to buck me on that one as well, about the 5 mile an hour zone coming in, and these guys don't have registration, and I get the registration thing. It's not that difficult for you to go to DMV or wherever and get your shit registered.
Oh, you got 150 grand in a boat. Spend $100 register.
Right, exactly. They just don't do it, and then somebody has to complain. And they like to hear themselves complain about it. So I can't. I just finally got to the point where I put it out there 6 months in advance and say, guys, they're working with us. Just get your stuff registered, and guys will buck you, like I said, and they want to complain. But that's a good venue down there, and nobody. My biggest concern is somebody goes out and gets hurt, and at that event, I don't have to worry about that. The Needles event, obviously, things can go wrong, but we've been very blessed there as well, and you just keep pounding it into the guys' heads that, hey, just go out and have a good time, but don't do anything stupid. Which a lot of guys leave their head in the cab of the truck when they put their helmet on, so you got to watch those guys.
It was cool. All these years I've been working on boats and all this painting stuff, and I was always into the car deals. I never really was around them. Just never went. So when I went to Billy's show a couple years ago, that's the first time I'd ever actually been to a boating event. And it's pretty cool when the national anthem is sung, and she's finishing up "Home of the Brave," and then all of a sudden, these two boats come racing down the river at 130 mile an hour, and the blower's screaming, and that was badass, man. Like, whoa, I've been missing this. I was a little mad at myself because it was really cool.
That's so rad.
He's like a little, a little water flyby or whatever you want to call it. It was
liquid flyby.
A liquid flyby. It was bitchin'.
So, hey, you guys have to come check it out sometime.
Definitely, after watching.
I'm not far away.
Where are you at again?
I'm just up in St. George, Utah. So I'm just
far.
about 4 hours from you.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. My wife's mom lives in St. George.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love it here.
Yeah, very pretty, but it's getting congested too, right?
Oh yeah. It's growing. It's the fastest growing city in the nation again. I mean, it is off and on for probably the last 30 years, but
all the Californians moving in, right?
Damn Californians. I'm one of them. So
yeah.
But I've been here since '85, so I don't count.
Right. Yeah. You're
it's just everybody else.
You're grandfathered in.
I was going to say, well, wait, you went to public school out in California, so you can't count.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I can take my socks off.
So yeah, that's in Boise, Idaho. I got a lot of friends up there, and every time we've gone there, I told my wife, I said, this place is going to be under mass construction for so long because the infrastructure cannot handle the amount of Californians moving in there, and it is. So it's just part of the game plan, and I'm glad I'm here in this little bow hunt town of Needles.
So I've got to ask, why did you set up storage in Needles? Because it's not like you can roll the boat, just roll the trailer into the water behind the shop.
Right.
You still got another 20 miles to go.
No.
2.5 miles, you're in the water.
I was thinking of further away than that.
No,
I need to get down there now. Yeah. Well, see, that makes a hell of a lot more sense than what I was thinking.
Well, and everybody that that asked me why I put the paint shop in California.
Mhm.
But it was basically the paint shop followed the dream of having the storage business, and this piece of property that we bought, it sits right on California 95, which takes you down to Blythe,
Right.
and Interstate 40. And I'm sandwiched. It's almost like a piece of pizza. So you're within 700 feet of the off ramp and the on ramp, and we poured 600 yards of concrete out in front of the paint shop building, and it's all fenced in. So that is where you pick up and deliver your boat or RV, and you're right back on the highway again. And you're 40 miles from Havasu. You're 45 minutes, or a little bit longer than that, from Parker, Arizona. You're 35 minutes from from Lake Havasu, but on the California side, which is called Havasu Landing.
Right.
So it was actually a great piece of property, and I just felt location was everything. And we really haven't advertised much other than social media. I don't have anything on Google, which I realize is probably a mistake, but it's been very difficult to set that up and get appointments with them, which is, I know, sounds weird too, but it has been. Then you've got the social media thing, and I don't even have a website for the storage business yet, because that was being built at the time that the Google thing was going down. So the paint shop fed the storage business with clients and just word of mouth. And then the word of mouth spread. And then you've got, like I said, a couple of Facebook social media sites that have really helped it out immensely. And, it's done really, it's making the payment, and it is, which was a major, nightmare, and a lot of sleepless nights thinking about that, but it's at least doing that right now, and it's still growing. And so I've been blessed with that, but I think location has been everything.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, but the paint shop has suffered through all of this, to be honest with you, because I just don't. The storage thing has been way more time consuming. And for lack of, they all want to meet me, or they, I talk to Billy, is he here? And then they want to come in, then they want to look at the boats. And, I'm not going to be a jerk to them. They're your customer. And so you end up talking to them or answering your phone or texting back, and it takes a lot of your day away.
Yeah, for sure.
So been a lot more work than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I got to play host and shake the babies and kiss the hands, right?
Right. But at the end of it, I get a paycheck every month for the business. I've been one of those business guys that has not taken a paycheck from it yet. And just because you got to get it growing. But it's been fun. I've met a lot of really good people through it too, on that end of it.
Nice.
So, yeah.
A friend of mine used to refer to his business as the same situation as a nonprofit organization. It wasn't designed that way. It's just the way it ended up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. In his pocket, no profit. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's been good. I would not go back. Let me put it to you that way.
Yeah. So Billy, I gotta ask, what are your current personal projects? Isn't that the fun?
Oh my God, there's 8 of them.
Yep.
And they're sitting down in the big building, and then there's a couple sitting outside here that are old boats that are restoration projects for me. And then I took my boat that was absolutely great condition,
gorgeous,
and I painted it in 1991. It had a couple little chips in it, and I like to think of my paint jobs, most of them, as being timeless. is something that I look at it that, I mean, I look at some of my old stuff and I can't believe I painted that. What were you thinking? But there's some of these things that we have done that are, 30 years old.
Yeah.
And my paint job, well, 91. So yeah, it was, it was getting up there. And I knew the second I took a razor blade to it and started stripping it off, I knew that I was in trouble, and it was going to take me a long time to recover from it. Yeah. And that boat is now in my shop. I got rid of the Chevrolet because I just couldn't handle the hassle that I was getting, that I was a Ford guy with a Chevrolet in it. So I shotgunned that thing out to the first guy that came by and offered me $10. And so that went away. And I'm in the process of building a 531-inch Boss 429.
Oh, bitchin'.
Blown injected on alcohol. And then but then to do that, I had to have all the installation redone. So right. Brad was checking that out. I just got that back, and it's just all in raw, brushed aluminum looking right now. And the boat needs to be repainted. And I'm just so covered up with, all the other projects that, of course, it's got to sit.
Yep. Shoemakers, kids need shoes.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So at some point, I'm hoping within the next 2 years it's a finished project. It's been down for 7.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And all of his friends have really been not nice to him about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Why would we be?
They photoshopped it on the back of milk cartons and shit like that. And it's pretty funny stuff. And I knew I was in trouble. I knew that if I ever did it, and then I thought you were going to repaint this thing. And you just don't have the time. And when I tell you that I like to look at the paint jobs as being timeless. I think that for any custom painter that is out there that is given the luxury of time, and that's not always a positive thing, but if you're actually given the luxury of time to be able to create your own deal without the pressure of a timeline, I make changes all the time. I'll have a final layout on a guy's boat, and I'll keep staring at it and staring at it and staring at it, and I'll just go and make stupid little changes to it. But at the end of the day, I can't sell that paint job to the customer if I'm not happy with it, if right. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, and I like to know that I gave it my best effort. I gotta carry Brad, but it works. It works. And, he comes in and likes to say he saves everything. And, he, collects his $100,000 and walks out the door, and I got nothing left. So wow. Yeah,
pays you about 25 cents an hour, right?
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of these paint jobs and like that one there for the guy. It's two plain. The guy wanted a black and red boat, and maybe at some point Brad can show you the pictures, but he wanted a black and red boat. And he wanted it mainly red, and then along the bottom it was black, and then it shot up the sides almost straight, and then went into checkers. And I go, you can't do that. That'll look like shit. And the guy goes, you can't tell me how I can paint my own boat. And he's a good friend of mine, so we always go to war. And so anyway, he says, all right, then fine. I just know I want a black and red boat. So the brand of this boat is called a DCB, and they're like the top of the line for the cat style offshore boat. And so I did a drawing, and I sent it down to them, and the owner calls me up, or the main manager, and he goes, Billy, you're kidding, right? And I go, no, why? He goes, well, we've never done anything like this. He says, we're going to have to get the guy to sign off on it. Well, what it is you'll have to picture like a pickle fork, right? Looking down on it. So what I did is in the very center of the boat, it was a silver. And then it went on one side of it, it went to a red stripe, a 1/4-inch stripe, to black, a wide black stripe, to another 1/4 inch of red, of red, and that whole half of the boat, was black or red on that side. The other side of the boat was black. So when that boat was going up and down the river, when he made a turn, one side of the boat was black, one side of the boat was red. So there's your red and black boat. But then the stripes down the center divided it, and when people walked in my shop, they didn't even realize it. And then so on the red side, I put black stripes, and on the black side, I put red stripes that went into a waving checkered flag at the back. And he shit when he saw it. He goes, dude, you got to feel this. And I go, what? And he tried to grab my hand to feel his crotch. He was so excited over it. And it
feel this.
Yeah, it's a trip. When you see the boat go upriver, and it looks bitchin'. And when it comes back, we were sitting on the beach here a couple weeks ago, and this one guy's wife goes, look at that boat. God, that's pretty. And the thing goes upriver. Then it comes back a little while later, and the husband goes, there it is again. She goes, no, it's not. That boat's black.
Which is great if you got
freaking boat. Cops. What's that? Oh, yeah, go rob a bank. Yep. So, have you seen it, Brad?
Not done. I didn't see it done.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty wild looking. So,
I got to tell you, the little 18-foot, 1,400 horsepower things scare the hell out of me. But I'd really like to find a mid 70s through early 80s, like 24, 26-foot day cruiser, V-drive with an automatic transmission. I think that would be just the most bitchin' little family boat.
We just sold one for a guy.
Did you?
Yeah. 10 grand.
Oh, that's a hell of a deal.
Yeah. Fresh 468. Well, it's fresh as a Chevrolet can be.
Hey.
It was a 468 with a transmission, velvet drive, so you had reverse and all the other stuff. And then
not that the reverse does any good, but
right, all original gel coat. And I mean, it had fresh interior, which interior job was $4 grand.
Oh yeah.
So the thing is that for $10,000, you're out there on the river boating around in a pretty classic looking 22-foot Howard day cruiser.
Bitchin'.
Yeah. Those deals do come around here every once in a while.
Yeah. My thing is timing. It's either I've got money to play or I don't. And
right.
When the good deals come around, it seems like they never line up.
Right. Yeah, I've been there several times. You'll have to come by and check it out. There's a lot of cool projects going on.
Definitely.
Yeah, I got to get down that way.
And has he told you about the spray booth that we had put in here?
No, he doesn't tell us any of the good stuff.
He tells us nothing.
It's
he just tells us about his toenail fungus and shit.
Tells us about that and then nicknames that you have for him, but that's about as far as we got.
There's great ones too. Well, like right now, my brother nicknamed him Moses, and it's true. He's got his thongs on again today, and it's it's just one of those things that it's definitely not OSHA approved. And there was a time where at the old shop in Upland, he was working, and he was up on the deck of the boat, and the bottom of his feet were black.
I was barefooted.
He was barefoot walking around the shop. And I took a photo, and I think I posted it on Facebook.
I have photos of it.
And I put, is this OSHA approved? And, but yeah, he gets his nicknames from all over the place. But the spray booth that we put in is 36 foot long, and it's over 14 feet tall. And it's like 20 feet wide, and it's heated and air conditioned.
Wow.
Yeah, he's probably not so important down there, but the air conditioning definitely is.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, there's been several mornings where I was driving down here to work over the winter, and it's 28.
Yeah.
And you just never think about that being like that, but it does happen. It's rare, but it does happen.
Right.
So the cool thing is that and when I tell you air conditioned, it's what they call an air makeup unit. So it's like a big, almost like a big swamp cooler.
Like a chiller?
Yes. So when the monsoon season hits, it does not work so well. But otherwise, you can take and he just showed me a picture of his feet. You can take and you can open the doors and you can cool this shop down to about 75 degrees when it's 115 outside.
Wow.
So it definitely makes a difference for me out here. You wouldn't be able to do it without it.
Right.
So
yeah, it's a little hard to spray when it's 174 degrees in the paint booth.
Well, you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then head out the door to get down here by 4 o'clock to get your paint work done before 8, 9 o'clock before the heat starts kicking.
Right.
So
with a booth that big, you could do 4 cars at one time. You could do like Earl Scheib jobs out of there.
right.
You could
Red,
put 2 and 2
turquoise,
in there.
pink.
You could do 4 cars in there.
It'll definitely fit 2 boats with ample. If you were going to clear them both at the same time, it would be great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
Billy, thank you. This has
thanks
been
for having
fun.
That was cool.
Thanks so much for being here, man.
You got it. I appreciate it.
And thanks for putting up with Brad for us. Somebody has to.
Yeah.
Somebody has to. I'm still one of these days waiting for the kickback to hit, but I haven't seen the check yet. So,
He's certainly not using it on his footwear allowance.
No.
there's a lot of allowances or vehicle repair kits.
Ooh.
Man,
The cool thing is that we did have a drip tray prepared for him. So showed up and we already had it.
it was already ready.
It was already ready for him.
It was across the street.
Oh, that's great.
EPA trucks parked in a circle around it.
Oh yeah. But anyway, no, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. We'd love to have you back too. I mean,
You got it. Anytime.
we will do something.
And we won't hijack it. You can ask me whatever you want.
Oh, open lines.
Great. Oh, we're going to open that one up to callers. This will be great.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Caller number 7 wants to know why you charged him $400.
Cleaning out drive.
Great.
Yeah.
Hey, Brad, just a word to the wise, you might want to wipe up your oil. You might get a $400 bill when you leave.
Yeah.
I can see this now. Long time listener, first time caller. What does the B stand for?
Oh yeah.
Are you single?
I ask for a friend.
Yeah. It'd be funny. They can't see your face, so you can throw off anything you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, awesome.
All right, guys. Well, hey, have a good rest of your evening.
You do the same. Thanks again for being here. We really appreciate
Got
it.
it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right.
Definitely. Hey,
Bye.
and man, as always, a great episode with a fantastic guest. Can't say thanks enough. We'll obviously have notes on the site from the podcast here. We'll have some photos, things to kind of bring you guys up to speed, a couple links to the show, other things you can learn more. And as always, at the end of the episode, I have remained Brian.
I'm still Brad.
I'm still Alex.
And I think I'm still Eric.
And hey, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks again for listening, and be sure to keep up with us gearheads over on our website at www.round6pod.com. And if you'd like to, be sure to follow along with us over on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Subscribers to our e-newsletter have access to expanded content such as tutorials, uncut interviews, bloopers, and behind-the-scenes footage. It costs nothing to subscribe, and you can do so over on our website at www.round6pod.com.